Hello and welcome to Quizzy Monday. It's the penultimate Quizzy Monday of this series that at times has felt like it was never going to end, but it ends next week. And next week we have an exciting looking roster of guests to take us through the University Challenge final. Tonight, well, uh, I have a short notice absentee, so it's the strangest of strange situations for us. It's just me. So, if you are watching, make sure you get your comments in the chat. We've got the World Quizzing Championships coming up very soon. If you want to post any questions or comments about that, please do. If you've got any comments about tonight's episode of University Challenge, then please let us know what you thought. We've got all the other things, usual things coming up. We've got the recap on who won the votes for Quizzer Team of the Week last week, who won What is the Question, and what this week's What is the Question vote is. And of course, we've got the nominees for Quizzer and Team of the Week. So all the usual stuff, just fewer people. And probably be a bit shorter as a result of it because I'm not very good at having conversations with myself. Now, I can't see any comments in the chat, but I'm sure there are some of you out there. Make sure you get your comments in. Whilst you're thinking of things to say, let me lead us through the winners from last week's votes. Congratulations to Ewan Munro, who was Quizzer of the Week last week. Second was a tie between Sean Drury and last week's Quizzy Monday guest, Alex Radcliffe. Team of the Week was the Sesquipedalophobes, who won Connections Online Quiz League. And there was a tie for second between Keep the Faith of Quiz Nations Asia Pacific and No Hat Mafia, who retained their Connections Online Quiz League USA title. Don't forget, you can nominate anyone for Team and Quizzer of the Week. Go to tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. Nominations close at 5 p.m. every Monday. So there we have it. We will have the nominees for Quizzer and Team of the Week later on. Now, Chris, one of our Patreon members, has posted in the chat. He's put, UC was great practice for the International Culture Challenge. Bloody hard. Yeah, I mean, it was semi-final. So it was always going to be a bit tricky tonight. Not that Bristol made it look tricky, has to be said. International Culture Challenge has started again. You might have seen last night the live draw that I was a guest on, talking for a couple of hours about the brilliant quizzers who are going to be competing in that competition. Chris says hello, by the way, and as does Will. Hi, Will. So, yeah. What did people make of tonight's UC? So Will's commenting, I think, replying to Chris here, good practice, but a bit demoralizing. I think the thing you have to remember, whenever you're watching something like University Challenge, just like Only Connect, you're watching a team game. And so there are four people, one of whom has to know the answer to what you're being asked. Whereas as an individual, you might only have an inkling on 25% of those questions, and that's fine. That's how the team mechanics work. So don't get demoralized when you don't know kind of 50% or 75% of what's going on in University Challenge. That's the nature of the beast. These teams are well structured to cover all different territories. So ICC is going to be testing you, but don't feel that UC prepares you for demoralization. That will not happen. Keep the faith, Will. Keep the faith, Chris. So, Bristol versus Southampton tonight. Two really good teams and two of the standout players of the season in Lyon and McLaughlin. And it wasn't, just didn't disappoint us tonight. They were trading blows for the early part of the match. Jacob McLaughlin and Lyon, superb play by both of them. I think they took the first the half dozen starters between them, and absolutely superb play, as we've come to expect of them. Catherine, hi there, bit late as I was washing my hair. Thank you for that added detail. Let us know which brand of shampoo. Might be able to get a sponsorship deal. You never know. So they were trading blows. Some really good buzzes from Jacob McLaughlin, Hamilton, AZ, Sinatra Doctrine, so good. Lion, Blast, really good answer. So they were really living up to their billing, but from quite early on, it looked like it was going to be Bristol that were taking the honours tonight. It would have needed a really good fight back for Southampton, but by halfway, Bristol were quite a way out in the lead. And McLaughlin, let me do a count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starters. If that isn't the highest of the series, it's somewhere near it. And it's the sort of performance that, if the final hadn't already been filmed, would be sending shivers down the spine of Durham, who are their opponents in next week's final. Not to say that Durham themselves are not brilliant as well. Durham are a fantastic team, and it's a tasty looking final that we have in the offing. Breaking news: Alberto Balsam's tea tree, gorgeous scent that is autistically pleasing to my nose. That is a very good and interesting recommendation there, Catherine, and also an interesting insight into autism. So thank you very much for that. So yeah, a really nice spread of questions tonight. There were some good early buzzes. Rita Hayworth, very nice buzz from McLaughlin. I thought there was a couple of negs. Odessa, Chekhov. Chekhov was a classic case of not quite listening or passing the question you've been asked. Somebody gave a French birthplace, and Chekhov was given the answer. But I think when you're under pressure, you're just trying to dive in and get ahead of the opposition. So as a match, it really wasn't that much of a contest. Five buzzes in, 5 starters in, it was 45-35, but thereafter, um, Bristol went on and racked up another sort of 90 points without answer, and by that point, it was over with. Now we've got Alex from Durham chipping in after my comments about what they might have thought. We were nervous to play them anyway. We'd already seen what they could do in our first match. Of course, you had played all the other semi-finalists, so you knew what was coming up. But even then, I think the form that we saw from Jacob McLaughlin, Alex, that must be the sort of thing that probably you're best not knowing about, or maybe you are better knowing about it, and you just need to be extra aggressive on the buzzer. Either way, superb play, really anchoring the performance from Jacob, with Richardson chipping in with a couple of very, very good buzzes as captain, and Keeler also chipping in with a couple of buzzes. I think it was perhaps a little surprising that Southampton um, didn't get didn't get closer to Bristol. Um, but that's the fractions that can come with if you're just a fraction late on the buzzer, it can end up quite one-sided. We'll never know quite how close they were, but what we do know is that Southampton throughout the tournament have been a very, very good team. Catherine, McLaughlin was badass tonight. He was indeed. Now, when we run through the nominees for a Quizzer and Team of the Week later on today, he wasn't originally in the recording that I did because that was done before the show, but we have added Jacob McLaughlin to the nominees list because those 9 starters it's just phenomenal. He got more. 2, 3, 4, 5. He got almost double the number that Southampton collectively did. So brilliant performance. It wasn't all about McLaughlin. We saw some great teamwork as well. There was the discussion about Tewkesbury when it was the churches in villages. Discussion. There was some very good team play there, discussing Shrewsbury, Tewkesbury, etc., in what was not the easiest of bonus sets. And we also saw a classic Paxo semi-sneer tonight on the 4A question, which some of you might know from an S Club 7 song. Not saying that's where I know it from, but yeah, when they suggested Sibelius and Grieg, there was a little bit of a sneery, no, it's not. But nonetheless, otherwise, it was a pretty strong set of performances. Now I'm just looking, no more comments. Let me know what you thought, about McLaughlin, but about the other players. We're saying goodbye to Southampton. They've been a great team. Lyon, I think, has been one of the standout players of the season. Belcher, a very strong captain. At this point in the season, you don't lose poor teams. Poor teams have gone. two teams tonight were superb, and Southampton were on the wrong end of it. In terms of bonus sets, there were some nice ones, not entirely predictable. I think it goes back to what Chris was saying about being bloody hard. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. That they didn't necessarily go for the obvious tonight. So yeah. Oh, there's Chris. Oh, you are going to get demoralised, aren't you, Chris? So you went for Barber rather than Foray. I mean, not a million miles, but no. Yeah. So I've lost track. But yes. So yes. So the bonuses were suitable for a semi-final. Nice and tough and challenging. Edmonia Lewis. Vector geometry. I mean, I understood most of the words, but pretty much none of the actual questions. Silent film stars. Nice set. I'm going to suggest that was a Lillian Crawford set. We will, I'm sure, see on Twitter whether that was the case. Will G saying I got 4A. Yeah, well done. Nilotic languages. We didn't get to hear all of the Space Hall of Fame, which was a shame. African Cup of Nations, a very nice set. All in all, it was a very good and varied set of questions tonight. Now, while I give you some time to think of perhaps any... Oh, here we are. Catherine, taken aback a bit by how difficult the questions were, eventually scored 75, including all the berries. Again, this is a semi-final. This has to be tough. And you're an individual as opposed to teams. So I think sometimes we forget, and we always see this with Only Connect, that, the finals are tough. The next game people see is a round one game, and people think, oh, it's dumbed down. No, it's just these things ramp up in difficulty to try and kind of sort the teams apart as the competition progresses. Chris is saying this is on the silent film stars. Got Clara Bow, said Bankhead for the rest. I said Theda Barra for the first one, and then neglected to say her name for any of the others. So that wasn't my finest moment, sat in my armchair watching this. Now, as I say, I'm going to play a video about what is the question to let you know where we are with that this week. Whilst I do that, if you've got any other comments about tonight's University Challenge, please throw them in the chat. So with the World Championships coming up, we've started releasing a stream of videos to help people prepare, particularly if you've never played them before. First weekend of June is World Championships played, first Saturday of June, played all around the world. 8 genres, very difficult international content, but there's no other written quiz quite like it. We've set out a bunch of videos with some general tips and some genre by genre tips, and we released today the first of an additional series of videos of tips from the very best players in the world, culled from some of our interviews from the last 3 years. Starting today with Victoria Gross, 2021 World Quizzer of the Year, Chaser in America, Best Female Quizzer on the Planet. Coming up, we've got Evan Lynch, Didier Briere, loads of others. So look out for those. They'll help you not just preparing for the World Championships, but preparing for quiz in general. So now let's have a look at what is the question. Richard Aubrey won What is the Question once again last week. The answer was up, and Richard's question was, the Rick Astley paradox occurs if you tell him you'd really like him to give you his copy of which animated film. He contradicts his most famous promise if he does, but lets you down if he doesn't. This week's answer in need of a question is Posh, and you can now vote on the long list at tinyurl.com/WITQ Posh. Voting is open till Wednesday, when we'll release a shortlist to find a winner. And if you want to submit questions for What is a Question, well, we release a new Answer in Need of Question every Sunday morning on Facebook and Twitter. All you have to do is reply to that post with your question. Deadline for sending in questions is Monday at 4 p.m. So I've had a couple more comments. Whale Watcher SA, is that South Africa? I love Louise Brooks in Pandora's Box, but without fail, I forget her name. And, that's the trick with quizzing. It's somehow being able to fish it out. Now, in something like the World Championships, you have time to be able to fish things and come back to them. University Challenge, you don't have time. With the bonus sets, you have some chance to discuss, but you don't really have time to be fishing them out. So, yeah, but good knowledge anyway, and a film worth checking out. Catherine, I like how they describe the second only Connect book as being the difficult one. I'm still wading through the quagmire-like impenetrability of the first one. Difficult, head in hands. Uh, we wouldn't have it any other way. We love these shows this way. That's what makes them fun. Sitting back and watching brilliant quizzes play brilliantly to tackle questions that we can't even start passing and they get the answers. This is why we love these shows that we have on Quizzy Monday, whether it's Mastermind, Only Connect, University Challenge. It is all cracking stuff. Now, we've got a comment here about what is the question. Chris, as a Wednesday fan, I've recused myself from this week's competition. Well, last week's What is the Question was up because Northampton Town got promoted, and that was a little self indulgence. This week, it is posh because, as most of you probably know, they managed to blow a 4-0 lead in the playoffs and lose to Sheffield Wednesday, Chris's team. Peterborough, the Posh, are the arch rivals of Northampton Town. So there is no small degree of Schadenfreude in the choice of that word. And we don't apologise for it. It's all in a bit of fun. So, Chris, enjoy your day at Wembley. I'm sure it will be doubly sweet because of how you got there. Now, Miles has written a question. Would you say Kevin Ashman is the greatest quizzer of all time? This is a really difficult question to answer because I think you have to factor in a lot of things. He has won more world championships than anyone. He's won more European championships than anyone. He's won more British championships than anyone, I believe. I stand correct to be corrected on some of that, but pretty much he's up there. I think he's just won more titles than pretty much anyone, and he predates the big explosion in sort of the national quiz circuit. So he was doing shows, and Mastermind still has the record score and winning 15-1, all sorts of things before there was even a circuit to be playing on. So Kevin has been there and done it before there were many of the advantages that we all have now. I think you have to place Kevin and Pat Gibson very closely together because Pat has achieved much of what Kevin has, and for a lot of the time, at the same time that Kevin has been at the top, it's been kind of a Federer, Djokovic, Nadal situation with a couple of with those two, and other people coming in. Kevin, he just across multiple formats has been a winner from Quiz League. Chris Dyson, Kevin still tops QLL stats. Yeah, he won. Kevin has the Ashman Trophy named after him. He won the Ashman Trophy last year. So I think for what he's achieved, you would have to say that, if it were possible to pick a GOAT, then Kevin would have to be up there. But if you look at Pat in the last 2 years, and the multi-formats he's played and the multiple geographic territories he's played, then Pat has shown such a kind of versatility and ability to conquer all sorts of contests that he has to be up there with Kevin. Kevin at his peak versus Pat at his peak, I wouldn't want to call it. Absolutely sublimely brilliant quizzes, both of them. So I'm going to fudge it, Miles. I'm not going to say whether he is or isn't the GOAT. I think they're probably joint goats. They're so far ahead of others, and there will be others who come along in the future and who will achieve many brilliant things. And I think with the diversification of competitions, we may well see that there are some people who are incredibly strong in one format rather than necessarily conquering all formats. But for 20 plus years, in Pat's case and longer in Kevin's case, they have been casting all before them except for pretty much each other. And for that, they are just incredible. Chris is saying the fact that Pat does so well in Bundesliga and Indian competition is incredible. It is, and I think that hunger to learn, that hunger to stay at the very top of the game, he's serving Pat well. I think with the World Championships coming up, it will be very interesting to see how Pat does, because the last couple of years he has been playing, Quiz Nations Asia Pacific. He's been playing the Asian Quiz League. He's been playing Bundesliga. He's everywhere, and because of that, he's being exposed to stuff that he might never have come across previously, and he's picking up things that might have been somebody else's kind of unique points, and now he's getting them as well. So I suspect he will do very well at the World Championships. Kevin took longer to embrace the online world. He picked and chose what he played, and I think that might be the one thing that disadvantages him when it comes to the next World Championships. But who knows? Who knows what he's been working on and how he's been doing it? Because Kevin, he's got nothing left to prove to anybody. He owes nobody an explanation about what he's been doing and how good he is, because he's just been such a star, a superstar of the scene for so long. Miles is saying Evan Lynch has got to be one to look forward to seeing. Great things, though, I'd say. Absolutely. I think Evan Lynch is almost undeniably the best Mimir player out there at the moment. I know he says it's his favourite format, but he's won multiple Mimirs World Champions and World Series, and he's just there. Whether it's pop culture or international culture, it doesn't matter the competition. Evan is up there. He's just so good. Correctly, Will is throwing in Dowd. Dowd had a really brilliant breakthrough last year. He was nominated for Breakthrough Quizzer of the Year off the back of it. There's such a rich seam of talented quizzers coming through, hot off the Quiz Bowl circuit and the lockdown explosion of online quizzing. So things are going to change. There is going to be a change of guard at some point. And I think when you name people like Evan, Dowd, Will saying Sean Webb could get to the same level too. In fact, in the interview we did with Evan after he won the British Championships a couple of years ago, he was naming Joey Goldman, Dowd Jackson, Sean Webb. We have to throw in others like Jonathan Gibson, etc. now into the mix. Interesting, Catherine, you're saying Olav Bjorton. When I'm talking Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, I think Olav is probably certainly the third British one in that triumvirate. Definitely. Superb player, multiple world champion, and brilliant on the rock hard international curriculum, to the point where he's pretty much abstained from domestic stuff, apart from Quiz League of late. He really doesn't play the Grand Prix, etc. So, yeah, Olaf is right up there. We live in amazing times for quizzing, for British quizzing and for world quizzing. There's never been the volume of quality players that there is now. There's never been the volume of quality competitions that there is now. The standard of question writing is, I would argue, better than it's ever been. So what times we live in right now. This is one of the few exploits, one of the few hobbies that pandemic really boosted and did well from. It set things running, and now the genie is out of the bottle, and we've got brilliant players coming from all over. And one of the best things about this era is the international spread, the cross-fertilization, American players playing in UK leagues, European players playing in Southeast Asia. It's just tremendous, and the world is better for it. Tim, Pat, Kevin, and Evan must have natural ability. It can't solely be due to hard work. I think that's right. I think people do have an aptitude. Some people have a sticky memory, but it also does come down to understanding how you learn and putting in the right work on the right things. And again, in some of these videos we've been showing, people like Evan are talking about how they went about that. Evan talking about how he used to be very poor at history, so he started building this chronology, which he could peg things not just historical, but art and literature and other things too. And all of a sudden, you've got this patchwork chronology that allows you to make links between things and educated guesses between things. So yes, you've got to have the aptitude and the potential, but you've got to put the work in. There is absolutely no shortcut to being a top quizzer. You can get so far in a relatively short space of time, and thereafter the increments are harder and harder to obtain. Evan got to the top in about 6 years. I've not really known anybody do it faster than that. But some people are working so hard right now, and that's the thing none of us see. None of us see how well people work. Um, Miles is saying, I think it's a mix of both. You need to put in a lot of hard work, but yes, some people do have more natural ability than others. Yeah, that's. But it's the same with anything. It's the same with kicking a ball. You can train yourself to take free kicks, and some people can do it kind of naturally, but they'll still work at it as well. Catherine, Nevin Sullivan had a film made about him called The Trivialist. How international his achievements are, I don't know, but if Bryden feared him, then he must be fairly bulletproof. Yeah, interesting. I've not seen that film, but again, the fact that we know what quizzes in Australia think now is just it's mind-boggling. We did an interview with Bryden Coverdale about the book that he wrote, and I have to say, if you get hold of that book, every quizzer will recognize things in that. Every quizzer will see themselves and their own journey in at least some of what he's talking about, and they'll recognize the scene and how it kind of grabbed hold of him and the choices he made. These sorts of things are universal. It doesn't matter whether you're in Melbourne or Mumbai or Manchester. We're all going through the same process. The curriculum might be slightly different, but the process isn't. And we all have a unique ways of doing things. But it's great to be able to learn from the best. Well, we have kind of digressed, but this has turned into an Ask Me Anything session. So feel free to keep any questions going. We've really digressed from University Challenge, but I think I'd covered pretty much all of that side of things. So let me just bring it back. And whilst I grab a drink, let us say thank you to our Patreon members. We are so grateful to our Patreon members. They help keep this channel running. The software that I'm using to live stream is paid for by them. The computer that I'm using that replaced the laptop that died midstream earlier this year has been supported by our patrons. The software I use to edit videos supported by our patrons. Really appreciate what they do to keep the channel going. And in return, we offer a number of benefits. One of them is a members only quiz. The next one is this coming Sunday, and it's going to be themed around the genres of the World Quizzing Championships. So there are going to be questions of the type that you'll face at the WQC. They will be of varying difficulties and broadly international. So if you do want to play that and going to get a little bit of a head start on WQC prep, then go to patreon.com/allthingsquiz. Pay a minimum of £3 and you can join in. We're back to football. C Shiner says, are you happy MK Dons got relegated? Well, it is probably quite well known in certain parts of the quizzing world that I do not recognize the legitimacy of that team. So it was very nice to move into League One when they slipped into League Two. And may over the years our distance between the two clubs get further. That would be my dream. So very much happy that they got relegated. Not least, I live not far. Just yes, enough said really about that. But yeah, I am happy. Miles, I'm doing my first European Championships in November. I can't wait. Will you be doing it? I am intending to be there. Yes, it's in Torremolinos in Spain. I've never been to Spain. I haven't been to the European Championships for a few years. I think my last one was Venice. but before Venice, I've been there at every one since 2006. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the game's moved on, to meeting up with old friends, and to having my brain bashed around for a couple of days. Yeah, it will be a nice return to that level of quizzing. There is nothing quite like it. The intensity, the level of difficulty, but also that melting pot of people. It's a very, very good event. So yeah, if people can afford it, and I know not everybody can right now, then when you get an opportunity, if there is one close to you at some point in the future, then I'd suggest going. But in the meantime, say you've got the World Championships, which are held in every country and in multiple locations in most countries, and you've got national championships, and you've got online quizzes. There's so many opportunities now to play this level of question that 5 years ago there wasn't. It was World Championships, European Championships, and pretty much that was it. That was your only chance to play that type of question. Now you can play it most days. Things like the International Culture Challenge, Mimi as well, etc. Give you that sort of caliber question as well. Chris is saying Torremolinos. I'd say all Torremolinos brings to my mind. There was a game on the ZX Spectrum back in the 80s called Terramolinos. That's never come up in a quiz. That's due to come up at some point. Tim, I'm very new to quizzing. Started at the end of second lockdown. Very glad I found this channel. It's been a massive help to me. I'm really glad to hear that, Tim. I think you might have messaged us through our website today, so we'll get back to you on that. But I mean, the main thing is, we do this for fun. So find the things that give you joy. Don't pile too much pressure on yourself. There's so much to learn that you can find stuff that's really interesting and rewarding to learn, as well as giving you points as well. So you're embarking on your journey. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to be good too soon. Test yourself against the questions. At the end of the day, it is you versus the questions. Get right the ones you should have got right, and then the ones that you don't get right, then think, okay, how can I get them right next time? But don't beat yourself up over never having heard of something. Just try and work out why it's significant and how it can stick in your brain. So good luck on your journey, Tim. There is a lot of scope for getting a really, really, really rewarding hobby and experience out of quizzing, both in person and online. So yeah, best of luck to you. Catherine, I'm doing a BQC for a second time in September. Now, I think I was your pairs partner. I think, was that the first time you did it back in the BQC, I don't know, 6 years or so ago. Best of luck with that, Catherine. I'm sure you will do well. I know you've been working hard and watching a lot of quizzes, so I'm sure you will have a good British Championships later this year. Now, nobody else wants to ask me about football, so that's probably good. So I'll avoid the potential of upsetting anybody. And there aren't any more comments. So what I'm going to do now is, whilst we wait to see if there are any more questions or comments, I'm going to play through the nominees for Quizzer and Team of the Week. The nominees for Quizzer of the Week are Scott Blish, the most recent Pop Solos champion, Brian Craythorne, who won the semi-final of Ireland's Smartest, Dag Griffiths, who won the Merseyside Quiz League Mimir competition, Jason Hess for 7 out of 8 in OQL USA Division 3, Jacob Myers for 14 out of 15 in Mimir as well, and Ian Toms for a full house in the online Quiz League. For Team of the Week, we have cricketers who won both the Riley Cup and the Merseyside Challenge Cup. Roger Smarts, the top scorers in Quiz Nations Portugal. Smarter How, OQL USA's top scorers. Team North East, the top scorers in OQL. And tonight's University Challenge winners. You can now vote at tinyurl.com/QW22 May 23. That's tinyurl.com/QW22 May 23. Voting is open until Friday afternoon when we release the winners. Now, Dag Griffiths got a nomination there. You may remember he won Quiz Week a couple of weeks ago. Dag was one of the big names from the old sort of early 90s, late 80s, William G. Stewart era. He quizzes in the Northwest in Merseyside. Dag is living proof that quizzing is something that you can do well into later life. Dag, I understand, is now in his 80s. There are other quizzes around on the circuit who are in their 70s. This is a lifelong hobby that we have. This is something that can be rewarding for a long time. So enjoy it. See where this journey goes. Chris is saying good luck to Catherine and Miles. To which Miles is saying thanks. Or Catherine's chipping in with some advice here. Read up on British monarchs, British prime ministers, presidents, Oscar Grammy winners, Nobel Prize winners, world capitals, flags, basic Latin, Greek, the Olympics, World Cup, Japanese culture, etc. Well, all of that is sage advice. What I would say is, if you haven't watched it, Tim, there was a video we did on advice for new quizzes, and that chimes with some of what Catherine said there. Not everybody's a list learner, but the stuff that you're looking at here is generally things that don't change. So, as I said in the video, Truman will always have followed FDR, so that doesn't change. So as long as once you know that, then there's a point to be had. Our prime ministers are always in the same order, although the last year or so that's going to be tricky remembering the order of those potentially. But yeah, I mean, the things that don't change give you points and time again. So always good to have the real core curriculum there available to you. I don't see any more comments or questions in the chat. So rather than elongate this, I want to remind you that next week we will be here for the final of University Challenge with some great guests to talk through what we watch. I don't know who wins. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what's going to be happening between Durham and Bristol. Two brilliant teams. It's going to be really, really exciting match to watch, and we got some great people to talk to you about it. Don't forget to vote on what is the question, tinyurl.com/WITQposh. Don't forget to vote for Quizzer and Team of the Week, tinyurl.com/QW22 May 23. All of those votes are running now. Miles, Grover Cleveland always serves 2 non-consecutive terms. Yeah, he does. So, sometimes things get finessed. Flags do change, and, we've gone from one American-born to 2 American-born prime ministers and things. Some things do change. Once you got the stuff under your belt, the vast bulk of that stuff doesn't really change. Catherine moved on to early broadcasting, Marconi especially. Hang on, hold on. Okay. Catherine has something to say. So whilst we're waiting for what Catherine has to say, every day between 12 and 2, we have lunchtime quiz time on Facebook and Twitter. We post a question. You can chip in with your answer, and at 2 o'clock, we give you the answer and some additional information, usually a nice article that gives you a bit more context and a bit more. Even if you knew the answer, maybe it'll give you some information that you didn't think you knew or you didn't know before. So here we go. Hang on. I do about an hour's revision, then have a 10-minute break to move around and refocus. Interestingly, Didier Breuer, in the video I've been editing, that he was saying, he talks about not binging in large amounts of hours, and making sure that you give your brain time to process things. Interesting. Different people have different methods. Ronnie Swiggers has a different time commitment as well. Will is saying, pray to God the Cleveland fact doesn't change in 2025. Amen, Will. Ideally 10 minutes for every hour's study. I mean, that's key. Now, what you've got to do is don't turn it into a chore. We do this because we enjoy it. We do the study or the prep because we want to get better. But as soon as you stop enjoying the process of learning, it's going to start affecting your quizzing. So try and keep finding a way making quizzing fun. Okay, well, that is pretty much it for tonight. Sorry we didn't have a guest. Sorry there wasn't to and fro about what we saw on University Challenge. It was a fairly straightforward match, and congratulations again to Bristol, and particularly Jacob McLaughlin And we look forward to next week when they take on Durham. Good luck to all of those. Best of retrospective luck to those. Don't forget to chip in with the votes. And we'll leave you with Catherine's sage advice of 50 minutes revision, 10 minutes funny cat videos. I think we can all sign on to that regime. Until next week, we will see you on Facebook and Twitter over the course of the next week. Look out for the videos we've got coming out about study tips and tips from the top and the World Quizzing Championships. And then we'll see you again at the same time next week. Goodbye, everybody, and thanks for watching this week. Cheers. Bye bye.